Welcome to Northampton Methodist Church Worship at Home. My name's Jenny Brooks and I'm a local preacher in the circuit, and this message is for Sunday the 30th of April. We're reflecting on the image of God as a shepherd. It's an ancient and powerful one. The Hebrew Bible has many references to God being described as shepherd, and the one that probably comes most quickly to mind is Psalm 23. It's an illustration of God as carer, shepherd, provider, supporter during really difficult times. And the Ezekiel reading from chapter 34 that we're also looking at this week summarises a number of the times that God speaks through his prophet, using shepherds and shepherding as a metaphor for his relationship with the people of Israel. And in a pastoral society where most people were subsistence farmers, stories about sheep and shepherding would have made a lot of sense to those who spoke and to those who listened. We live in a world where most of us have nothing to do with the care or management of sheep. But because this was such a common and well understood metaphor within the people Jesus lived alongside, it's not surprising that he uses it often, and he's hoping that perhaps no explanation is needed. However, in this reading from John's Gospel, clearly those listening didn't understand what he was telling them. And I wonder if it was not because the metaphor itself was unfamiliar, but because either the person saying these things looked like an ordinary man, not like a great ruler, king, Messiah. Or at least that was what they thought about Messiah. And I wanted us to think and reflect today about sometimes we can miss important information because it comes to us in ways, perhaps in words or images that we're not expecting, or that it comes from a person we don't think of as having authority, a very young person, a very poor person, a person without much education. And in a world of fake news, it's right that we check out the information we receive. But sometimes the truth comes to us in unexpected ways. John's Gospel is written in such a way that he's gathered together parables and sayings of Jesus around themes, these great I am themes. I am the bread of life. I am the light of the world. Today we have, I am the good shepherd. And I think perhaps John has written them in this way so that we get to look at them together, so that we understand these themes and their importance. In the first 5 verses of John chapter 10, Jesus doesn't name himself. He's reflecting on the true shepherd. This phrase is also in the Ezekiel reading as a comparison to those who should be leading and caring for the people but are looking after themselves. Those listening to Jesus didn't seem to be making that connection. So he goes on to explain, I am the good shepherd. And because these words are coming from such an ordinary person, people call him mad and demon-possessed, because not only were some of his words troubling to all in authority, but also to the ordinary people who were listening. And so saying that he was the good shepherd put Jesus in opposition with everyone else who wanted to have authority, either religious or secular. Then he goes on to speak about coming to be the shepherd of other sheep, not in this sheepfold, And we understand this to mean us, Gentiles, non-Jewish people. But for those listening to Jesus, this would have been shocking, because Gentiles included the oppressors, the Romans, the invaders, the people who were attacking them and oppressing them. That idea would not have been welcome to the people who were listening. And chapter 10 ends with Jesus having to leave in a hurry because people were threatening to stone him. They found his words so radical, and the response was to call him demon-possessed. And sometimes we have to recognise the radical nature of Jesus' message. It's not the message that many politicians or leaders would give us. It wouldn't be comforting. It wouldn't necessarily be what we want to hear. Love for all is his commandment, and we often find fulfilling that a difficult path to tread. This reading also reflects on those who are supposed to be helping God care for the people. Ezekiel talks about those who've become fat, taking more than their fair share of resources. And Jesus reflects that in his words for those in authority who are making life more difficult for ordinary people. And the Methodist movement began all those years ago with John and Charles Wesley paying attention to the injustice of the rules about who was welcomed into church, who was acceptable to God and who was excluded, who was acceptable to live in the community and who wasn't. I'd like you to think about the relevance of this to the current situation for refugees who are made to feel so unwelcome in our country, in our communities. Our response to Jesus' words needs to come from both our willingness to listen carefully and also to act with grace and integrity. Amen.